Hello, everyone, and welcome to Achieving a Better You. My name is Dr. Esther Malave, or Dr. Esther for short. Today, I have the privilege of my future person that I'm going to be interviewing, Susan Drummond. She has graciously volunteered to be my sample patient or client to discuss a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is hypertension. Being a physician for the last 30 years, one of the things that I noticed was that many people were being diagnosed with hypertension or high blood pressure. And within the last 2 years, I made some discoveries that changed how I took a patient's blood pressure. And also, I'm creating this video to educate the viewer so that you understand that you have certain rights and you can demand certain things of your provider. And if they do not want to, then maybe it might be a good idea to look somewhere else and look for a different provider. And what I mean by that is a couple of years ago, I had several elderly patients. They were like in their late 70s, 80s, and they kept complaining of dizziness and lightheadedness. And nobody knew. All the blood tests came back normal. Everything was good. And they came to me like, I don't know what's going on. I don't feel right. Something's wrong. And they couldn't figure out what it was. What I started to notice was that what happens when you walk into a room, the first thing that happens automatically is that device gets strapped to your arm, right? The automated device. Few offices do it manually, but regardless, the first thing that happens when you walk into the room is a blood pressure is taken. If you have a 70, 80-year-old who has to walk from the car, sit in the waiting room, then get up from the waiting room and walk all the way back, they're agitated. Their heart rate is going up. They just don't feel well. And so they need to calm down. They don't get that chance to calm down. So the machine is placed in the arm and they get a reading and the medical assistant says, oh, your blood pressure is fantastic. It's, let's say, 120/70, excellent blood pressure, and walks out of the room. Doctor comes in, oh, your blood pressure's great. Keep it up. Keep continuing taking all those blood pressure medications that the cardiologist gave you for your heart condition. What I started to notice was that I was thinking to myself, I wonder if it's a blood pressure issue. So I don't know about you, but with myself, when I have the automated put on my arm, it doesn't register my pulse. So what it does is it keeps cranking and cranking and cranking and cranking. And before you know it, it doesn't pick up a pulse, it releases. And then I know what happens again. Then it keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, yes, but it gets so tight that my fingers start to get tingly and I start to feel pain. And they want to diagnose me all of a sudden with high blood pressure, which I don't have. I've had 2 pregnancies, and both pregnancies, my blood pressure was extremely low, not high. So I'm like, no, I'm in pain. You cannot document a high blood pressure when I'm in pain because pain can definitely increase your blood pressure. So I thought to myself, I wonder if it's just that they're getting these perfect blood pressure readings because they're taken at a time when the patient is agitated. And so it's going to be normal. So what I did was eliminated the automated. I said, don't use it, do it manually. But then I started to notice that sometimes when the medical assistant took the blood pressure was a little bit high on some patients. And when I took it, after the patient's been waiting in the room for all that time, relaxed significantly lower. So in those particular subset of patients that were complaining of low blood, of feeling dizzy, I just waited. We had the conversation, discussed meds, discussed labs, whatever needed to be discussed first. And when I went to do their physical exam or whatever exam I was going to do, I did their blood pressure manually. And what I found was that those individuals that were complaining of lightheadedness and dizziness had blood pressures like 80/60. Oh. 70-year-old, 80-year-old cannot be walking around with a blood pressure of 80/60. And if they get up quickly from bed to go pee, they're going to drop. And hence the fractures. So there were a few patients that I had to call the cardiologist and say, hey, repeatedly, this person has as a resting blood pressure 80/60. How about not eliminate medications, because those medications have a purpose to help save the heart and protect the heart for numerous reasons, but how about lowering the dose? Because what you're seeing at the beginning of the visit seems perfect, but in reality, they're living at a much lower blood pressure reading. Makes perfect sense. So I wanted to do this reading to educate that you can insist, one, to eliminate the automated cuff, because a lot of times it's not accurate. Two, to ask the medical assistant not to take your blood pressure at the beginning of the visit and to wait for the provider to do so. Or the medical assistant can come back later if the provider's too busy to do it himself or herself, hence why I'm leaving primary care, to then she or he can do it at that time, but after the patient or the client has rested, because then you truly do get an accurate reading. The other thing is, don't smoke before you walk into that office. Don't drink coffee before you walk into that office. Don't exercise before you walk into that office, because all of those things, and caffeine, coffee, energy drink, anything like that that's caffeinated is going to bump up your blood pressure. Pain is going to bump up your blood pressure, as well as decongestants, anything like that, because they are all stimulants and they can raise your blood pressure, and you can be falsely diagnosed with elevated blood pressure. People don't know this, hence why I'm doing this video, to educate you. I also wanted to go over and show you how blood pressure is to be taken when you're in the office with a provider. Make sure that your legs are not crossed, that you are not speaking to the provider at the time that the blood pressure cuff is taken, that your arms aren't crossed, that you do not have clothing. Now, I admit that was the one thing that I did not abide by 100%. I would do it over clothing, especially with COVID and sanitary reasons why. But in the ideal world, you should not have any clothing when the stethoscope is placed over in the crease of the arm. And luckily for us today, you have a short sleeve, so it works out perfectly for the example. And also your arm should be resting and it should be at heart level. So I'm going to place the blood pressure cuff on her arm and we'll go ahead and do a reading on her. She's been sitting for a while. Her legs are not crossed and she's not going to be speaking, and we'll do the blood pressure and see what we get. You ready? I'm ready. Okay. Just keep it like that. The other thing that that I would advise you to do with your provider or your physician is go over the medications. Make sure that you're fully aware of what it is that you're taking, why you're taking it, and what are the potential side effects. Many times when patients complain of side effects like legs swelling, they don't realize that it could be one of the blood pressure medications causing that. So be fully aware and educated, and you have every right to ask your provider for that information. The other thing that I would recommend is if you are taking numerous drugs, make sure that you keep a little card, laminated card in your wallet so that you specify to the provider what the name of the medication is, what the milligram, when you're taking it, if you're taking it in the morning or in the evening, so that this way, if God forbid something should happen and you end up in an ER unconscious, they can then pull that out and know exactly what medications you're taking and know if that was possibly interfering with why you're in the emergency room to begin with. We're going to roll this up a little bit. You don't want the shirt to bunch up too much and act as a tourniquet. So make sure that it is nice and loose. The other thing, the cuff size plays a huge role. Do not use a cuff if it is too tight on the individual, even before the pumping happens, because you'll get also a falsely elevated blood pressure reading. So palm up. You're going to put the cuff right above the crease. And as you can tell, there's plenty of room in this one. Could have gone probably with a smaller cuff. I just didn't have it. But as long as there is room and it's loose, it'll pump up. And let's check the dial. Now, for those that are learning how to take blood pressure, please do not pump the cuff up to 160 or more than 160, because it is very painful. The only time you want to do that is if the person's blood pressure is that high. And she's a perfect example, actually, of how a blood pressure can change. When she first came in, your blood pressure was what, 124 over 76, I believe? Yeah. Well, now it's 118. Oh, okay. Over 68.
I did have to walk up those steps.
Exactly. Well, see, that's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. And your blood pressure was perfect when you came in and we tried to do it. So here we go. Perfect example of what I'm talking about. Yep. The difference that short period, it wasn't very long, maybe 5-10 minutes of her just sitting and relaxing. And this office is on the second floor. So you do have to climb a few steps to get up to this office. So perfect example of what I'm talking about. Yeah. So thank you for proving it. So I wanted to do this quick video just to educate you and to really have you look closely at your meds and make sure that the blood pressure readings that you're getting are accurate. The other suggestion, always, if you do take your blood pressure with an automated device at home, bring the automated device with you to the doctor's office. A lot of people don't get that, because this way the doctor can do it manually. Then you use your device. And even if there's a difference, it doesn't matter. You don't have to go rushing to buy a new device because that one's not on point. You can know the difference. So if there's a 10-point difference or 20-point difference between the reading that you're getting on your device and what the provider is doing, then perfect. You know the difference. So that this way, when you're checking it at home, you'll be like, oh yeah, there was a 10-point difference more with my device. So this way you don't panic when you start to see higher numbers. So just some suggestions that over these few last years, I've learned a lot when it comes to blood pressure, and I do not want the viewers out there to be diagnosed, first of all, falsely diagnosed with high blood pressure, because then you will experience those episodes of lightheadedness and dizziness because your blood pressure is dropping too low. Or the other can happen, if your blood pressure is high, then you really do need to attend and take care of it. And one of my essential keys of achieving a better you is something that I call heal thyself. And what I mean by that is that you really do need to heal and take care of your own body because nobody else will. So you need to step up and act as your own advocate. Stay tuned for our next episode of Achieving a Better You Show, where I'll have the privilege of interviewing this wonderful lady, Susan Drummond, who is a intuitive medium and a Reiki master. So stay tuned for that one. As I say always at the end of the show, there's always a way of achieving a better version of yourself, no matter what the circumstances. Keep hope and Christ alive. And until next time, take care of you.